Okay, let's dive right in. There's this massive shift happening in how businesses are using AI. And while all the headlines are about these big public tools, there's a quiet revolution going on behind the scenes. It's the move from public AI in the cloud to powerful AI inside private, secure systems. And trust me, it's happening a whole lot faster than you might think. So if you work in a field like banking, healthcare, maybe even for the government, this probably looks familiar. You try to use a tool like ChatGPT to get your work done faster, and bam, access denied. But look, this isn't just your IT department being the fun police. This is actually the first clue in a much, much bigger story about data, risk, and who's really in control. And here's the bottom line, plain and simple. Every single time an employee pastes customer information into a public AI tool, we're talking a name, an account number, even a support ticket, they could be breaking the law. The stakes here aren't just about some internal company policy. We're talking about massive fines and some very serious legal trouble.
This leads us straight into what I like to call the compliance trap. You see, using these public AI APIs isn't just a simple tech decision. For any business that's regulated, it is a legal and regulatory minefield. So let's walk through exactly why that is.
It all starts with this whole alphabet soup of privacy laws. You've got GDPR over in Europe, HIPAA for US healthcare, PEPEDA in Canada, and the list goes on. The rules are all super strict, and they all demand that you know exactly where your customer's data is, who can see it, and how you're protecting it. Now, when you just send that data off to some third-party AI company, good luck answering any of those questions. And then you've got this one specific law called the Cloud Act. Now, what this means is that if you're, say, a European bank using an American AI service, your customer's data, even if it's stored in Europe, could potentially be handed over to US authorities. For international regulators, that is a non-starter. It's an instant compliance failure. Let's make this really concrete. Imagine a customer service agent. They're trying to draft a helpful email, so they copy and paste the customer's name, their account history, their problem, the whole shebang. That little package of data then flies across the public internet, gets crunched on servers you don't own, and ends up sitting in some log file that you have zero control over. You can see how fast your most sensitive data just walks right out the door. So, you're stuck in this compliance trap. What's the way out? Well, it's something called private AI. And this isn't some crazy, complex idea for a handful of companies. It's the direct, necessary, and frankly, logical solution for any organization that's serious about using AI without losing control of its data. So what even is private AI? It's actually really simple. It just means you run the AI models on hardware that you, and only you, control. It could be servers humming away in your own data center, or maybe a secure, locked-down private section of a public cloud like AWS or Azure. The key is, it's your data, in your environment, following your rules. End of story.
Just look at this side-by-side comparison. With a public API, your data's on someone else's servers, subject to their policies, and you've got very little visibility, not to mention all their subprocessors. But with a private deployment, the data stays with you. You set the policies. You have a full audit trail. I mean, the difference in control isn't just small, it's night and day.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, all right, this sounds great, but if it's so obvious, why hasn't everyone been doing this for years? And that's the thing. We've just hit a massive tipping point. Two crucial factors, the quality of the tech, and you guessed it, the cost, have finally lined up, making private AI the smart default choice for big companies. Factor number one, the open source models are now just incredibly good. Models like Llama 3.1, Mixtral, and a bunch of others are now performing right up there with the big proprietary names like GPT-4, especially for the kind of stuff businesses actually do, like summarizing reports, pulling out data, and answering questions. That performance gap, it's basically gone. And factor number two is the tooling. The software to actually run these models at scale is now totally production grade. Things like VLLM or Hugging Face's TGI, these aren't just science fair projects anymore. These are battle-tested, open-source systems that Fortune 500 companies are using right now to get the job done. The infrastructure is officially ready for prime time. So, how does this all work in practice? Well, most companies are using a clever technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. Now, instead of trying to teach a model everything about your company, you just give it access to your internal documents on the fly. It's like giving the AI an open book test. The model gets all the context it needs to be smart about your business, but your sensitive data never ever has to leave your secure network.
All right, let's talk about money, because this is the part that usually blows people's minds.
Pretty much everyone assumes that building your own AI setup has to be crazy expensive. But for any company that's using AI a lot, the math has completely flipped on its head. So let's use a real-world example. Let's say you've got a medium-sized workload, about 10 million tokens a day, which is pretty standard for things like customer support automation. Using a public API like GPT-4 for that is going to run you about $180,000 a year. That is a serious line item on any budget.
Now, for the big reveal. What does it cost to buy and run your own private servers to do that exact same job? About $80,000 a year. Yeah, less than half. And that number includes everything, the hardware, the electricity, all of it.
So what does that mean? It means the upfront investment in your own hardware actually pays for itself in just over 5 months. And after that point, you're just saving money hand over fist every single day, all while getting total control and ironclad compliance. And just look at how this plays out as you scale up. The savings get absolutely insane. At 50 million tokens a day, you're suddenly saving $700,000 a year. At 100 million, you're saving over $1.4 million. The financial argument for going private once you hit a certain scale it's a slam dunk.
Okay, so we've covered the why, we've covered the how. Let's get really practical for a minute. How do you actually know if your organization should be making this shift? Well, here's a simple framework to help you figure that out. It's pretty straightforward. You absolutely need to be looking at private AI if you can check any of these boxes. If you're handling sensitive financial or health data, if the law says your data has to stay inside your country, if you need a system completely cut off from the internet, or if you can see your usage growing to a point where the cost savings alone make it a no-brainer.
But let's be real for a second. This isn't for everybody. If all your data is already public, your usage is pretty low, and you're not in a regulated industry, then yeah, public APIs are fantastic tools. This isn't about building a fortress when you don't need one. It's about using the right tool for the job.
So let's pull all these threads together. What we are witnessing right now is the birth of a new standard. For any serious company that has to play by compliance rules, private AI isn't some niche fringe idea anymore. It is rapidly becoming the new default.
And that's because the technology is there, the business case is a slam dunk, and the risks of sticking with the old way are just too high. For the banks, the hospitals, the governments of the world, the question has totally changed. It's no longer if they should go private, it's just a matter of when they'll make the switch and how they're going to pull it off. And really, it all boils down to this one final question you have to ask yourself. In this new age of AI, is your data going to be a strategic asset that powers your business forward, or is it going to be a massive compliance liability just waiting to explode? The way you choose to deploy AI will decide the answer.